Hello, everyone. This is Sue Darrow, and I would like to introduce to you Jason Lavender, the CEO and founder for ID Theft Solutions of America. This is the company that sponsors your great benefit that Catapult provides for you for your ID theft solution. So I'm going to turn this over to Jason, and we will have a couple Q&As at the end. It's all yours, Jason.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sue. And I'm always ecstatic when I get to share this kind of information. I'm kind of like that, and I like to always start with a few facts, because most people really have a lot of misconceptions about what identity theft really is. And so I'll start with a little education for you guys. The first, as you can see here, over 400,000 dead people opened up bank accounts last year. And that's an AARP statistic. And right now, when I talk about misconceptions about identity theft, most Americans have been misled by talk shows and radio shows and commercials to think that identity theft is specifically a credit-related issue. And so, we hear a lot, and whenever we go around and train and speak to employees all over the country, oh, well, my credit's bad, I don't have to worry about identity theft. Or you'll hear the funny ones that will say, I hope they do take my identity and maybe they'll give it back better than it is right now. And that's not what identity theft is at all. In fact, less than 20% of all the identity theft that happens in this country is credit related or will show up on a credit report. And so, as you can see on this slide, over 600 million American identities have been exposed since 2005. Now, that doesn't mean that 600 people's information has been stolen and that they are victims of identity theft. It means that it's been compromised and it's out there on the World Wide Web somewhere. And generally, it's things that are outside of our control, where businesses have been breached or hacked or lost our information, and things that it's not about losing our purses or our wallets. It's just about businesses primarily. In fact, more than half of identity theft in America comes from businesses. And so, the reason why is because, as you can see here on the third bullet, the revenue that these identity thieves make has actually surpassed drug trafficking in the United States. And they're far less likely to get caught while doing these identity theft crimes than they are if they were out selling drugs. And so they can sit in the privacy of their home and commit cyber crimes with far less likelihood of getting caught. So that's why for the 13th consecutive year, identity theft has been the #1 consumer complaint in the country. And so I'd like to just kind of touch on a few of these things for you. There's actually 40 some odd different facets of identity theft that are out there. And you see a reflection of just a few of those that are on the screen. But just so you all know about it not being a credit-related issue, so I've told you what it's not. So let me tell you what it is. Mostly identity theft in this country consists of things like medical fraud, where people are stealing our medical information and they're getting work done for underlying medical conditions that they might have. So you go to the doctor or the hospital, and all of a sudden your medical chart reflects someone else's blood type, or your records reflect someone else's illness that they have, and so you're mistreated. Or imagine even a worst case scenario, you're in an accident and you need a blood transfusion and you're incapacitated, and they show that you are a different blood type than you really are. Imagine getting the wrong blood. I mean, that could be a deadly situation. So it's serious things like that medical identity theft, and all the way down to little trivial things where people might use your information to get a cell phone to open up in their name, or maybe open up a electric account, or get an apartment lease, utility bill. A big one right now, you see government benefits. The IRS right now costs them over $7 billion with a B in fraudulent IRS claims. So identity thieves will actually steal our information, or they'll buy it through black market websites, and then they'll go file fraudulent claims, and so they end up getting our refunds. And when we go to file the real tax returns, the IRS is telling us we've already paid out your refund, and it takes usually it takes a couple of years to get that investigated and get it resolved. Not to mention, phishing schemes that we all are familiar with. You guys as Catapult employees certainly know this better than most, but the email and phishing schemes, and also the text messages, they'll show up and they'll look legit. They'll look like they're coming from a vendor that you do business with, maybe your bank, your financial institution, sometimes your healthcare providers or your cell phone companies. And so you click on whatever link that they send you, and it immediately takes you to a portal that looks and feels like the vendor's information. It has all the logos, but it's asking, of course, for your password, and asks you to verify some personal information, which you do. And little did you know that it was the hackers that had created those websites, and now you've just given them your information. Social security fraud is another one you see on the right-hand side over here. That is extremely prevalent in the United States. Certainly it is for those of you guys that are located in Texas or any of the border states. Our Social Security numbers are worth anywhere from $50 to $500 when they are stolen and sold on the black market. The scary part about that is when they are stolen and sold, they're typically not just sold to one individual. On average, actually, they're sold to about 20 different individuals. So imagine 20 people out there getting jobs in our name, may or may not pay taxes, committing crimes in our names. Driver's license fraud, as you see on that bottom right-hand corner, is actually the reason that I founded the company, Sue, back in 2002, because somebody that I had known back in my college years somehow ended up with my driver's license, and years after college got pulled over for a speeding ticket in a state in a town I've never even been to, and thought it would be funny to say that they were me. Problem is, they never went back to pay this ticket, and so when I find out about it, I've just built my first home out here in Austin, and I get a knock on my door one Saturday morning, and it was the Travis County Sheriff's Department with a warrant for my arrest. And so I had to go through, it was 6 to 8 months worth of painful process. I had to hire an attorney to prove that this was not me. I had to take fingerprinting, handwriting samples, and it was a very expensive and timely issue. And going through that, personally, I can tell you from experience, identity theft is the only crime that I'm aware of that you're really guilty until you're proven innocent, because it was your identity that committed the crime, if you think of it that way. So there's no doubt that it was your identity that committed it. It's just you're trying to say that you're not, if you can even imagine that. So it's a pretty scary thing. So identity theft is not just about credit. Just remember that as we go through this, because most of the products that are out there on the market are created around and centered around credit monitoring programs where they'll send you alerts for credit-related things. And that's part of what will differentiate this customized product that we put together for Catapult employees, and I'll touch on that in just a little bit. So right now, who is responsible for most of our information being compromised out there? Those 600 million records that I mentioned earlier have been exposed, and usually it's the human error. Usually it's somebody in the workplace that mishandles, misrepresents, sometimes theft, our information, and it's places that we have zero control of. And so the majority of identity theft situations that occur in this country are in fact a human factor. You can see a representation of that here on the pie chart. 58% of all the information in this country for breach is theft. Sometimes that's internal theft where employees are actually stealing the data, and sometimes it's external where they're hacking into places, or sometimes just breaking into businesses to get records. Here in Austin, Texas, where your home office is and where my home office is, we had a mortgage company last year that's a very large mortgage company, and whoever the thieves were that broke in and stole all the files knew exactly where the mortgage company stored their files of the homeowners coming in to do their title paperwork. And so they came into the title department and actually stole all the bins that had all the records and left. Like they were targeting just those records when they came in. So these identity thieves are very organized. They're very smart. In many cases, they're a lot smarter than the computers that they're hacking into. And, as technology gets better and smarter and faster, so do the thieves. And so you can see here just hacking actually is only 2% of all the data breaches in the country, yet most of you probably prior to hearing this information here today thought that hacking was a big part of it, and in fact it's really not. So most of it again is human error. So what I want to chat with you guys about is your new identity theft product. And we customize when Sue first reached out to us and said, hey, here's what we'd like for our employees and what we're looking for. What can you guys do for us? We certainly have our different plan offerings, but we wanted to really customize something for just you. And your employers had some ideas about that, and we had some ideas. So we put together a program, and it's called the Virtual Identity Protector. And as an employee, you guys have paid for, by your employer, a complete and very comprehensive identity theft protection. So I want to give you some bullets on what that looks like, and then we'll talk about the second part of your benefit towards the end. First of all, just to get this out of the way, as an employee of Catapult Systems, you are automatically covered with this service unless you notify Melody that you do not want to have this coverage. So you are immediately covered with the program, and your employer is, of course, paying for it, and so is your spouse, because part of our coverage does include your spouse's information, and I'll share with you how to get your spouse into your product here towards the end of this. And what does the coverage do? So what does this mean whenever you say covered? Well, the product does a lot of different things. There's a lot of different components to it. First thing that we do is we're not out just monitoring your credit information, although that is part of your product. We're actually out monitoring all forms of credentials that you want to have monitored. So you're in control of the different forms of ID that you would like to have monitored out there, and I'm going to share with you what that looks like. So first of all, we are searching networks and sites worldwide for your identity credentials that may have been stolen or compromised and are maybe being sold or traded on the black market. That's part of our software program. We have cyber software that is all over the world in millions of locations that's watching for our client information. So the mentality behind that is when and if we notice that your information is being trafficked in between sites, which is a very common thing among hackers, we can pick it up as it's being tracked before it's actually sold and utilized. And so that's part of that program. We're looking for your consumer data, and again, you'll have control of what data you're wanting us to look at. We have bots and different streams all over the world, again, globally, that we are watching different elements of different identities that are there with all of our clients, the ones that are maybe being stored or collected, the ones that are being transferred or sold. Sometimes we even catch them in the process of being hacked as the hacker enters some sort of a database where your information might be housed. The minute it's being extracted off of any of their bots or scrapers that they might have, crawlers as they're called in the world, then we might be able to pick it up very early on before anything really affects your information. Then, in addition to the monitoring elements and all those unique credential monitoring that we have out there, we also have a score tracker technology for you. And what this basically is a lot of times people, of course, are always wanting to look at their credit history and take a peek at what does that look like. And most people are more interested in their score than they are actually seeing the bureau every time. And you definitely don't want to have to pay for a credit bureau every time you come in. And so as part of your product, we put a score tracker in place, which actually watches your credit score for you. So every month, once a month, your score inside your product will be automatically updated. So when you log into your product, you'll be able to see that updated score without having to do a pull on your credit bureau and be negatively impacted, and without you having to pay to pull a brand new credit bureau. In addition, there's some other features that are really neat. We have what we refer to as a sex offender trace program, and what this is, you know, if you ever want to look at a certain address, if maybe you're traveling somewhere, maybe your own home, at the sex offender registries in your area, you know, for those of us that have families, that's obviously something important. If we're traveling somewhere, we might want to look at the neighborhoods that we're going into, and that's part of your product. You can actually get in and take a look at what's around you and in that information. And it's very detailed. You can see pictures and addresses and everything. It's a pretty neat part of the service. Lost wallet restoration services, very self-explanatory. If you have in your wallet or purse credit cards or identifiable information, what you do with us is you register those, and in the event you've ever lost your wallet or purse, we will actually fix that for you. So instead of you having to call all of your different creditors or your financial institutions to get all those things closed and reissued, our restoration specialist will actually do that for you with one phone call. And, fortunately, I've not had to utilize that one before, but we have a lot of clients that have, and it's a pretty neat thing to just have one number to call into. Now, the credit bureau monitoring, as you can see here, we do real-time monitoring. We're not just coming in once a month to see if something has changed on your history. It's actually real-time. When anything changes within your credit history, you will be notified by your virtual identity protector through email. And you'll get a notification email that in essence says something has changed on your credit profile, as an example. And click here to see it. And then you'll log into your product and you'll take a look. And if it's you, obviously there's nothing to do. But if it's not you, you're going to want to call your customer care team immediately when you notice that something is not you that's on there, or there's been some history that's not yours. And so that's always going on for you. You might get an alert about your score has changed on your credit repository. You might get an alert about something shows up with a change of address for you, because these are all different elements within the product that might prompt an alert if anything changes. So the change of address, we're updating with the United States Postal Service. It's very common for identity thieves to change our address information and to have our mail rerouted to them. And then they'll actually go through the trouble in many cases of changing it back to the correct address. So they just get your mail for a couple of weeks and you never really realize that you didn't receive some bills that might have come in. And then payday loan monitoring and restoration. We're the only product that I'm aware of that has the ability to monitor payday loans. A lot of the petty identity thieves that really are not the more professional organized groups, when they breach or steal information, they'll go to small payday loan houses. They'll create paycheck stubs saying that they're you, and sometimes false driver's license. And then really what they're looking to do is get things like small loans, $1,000, $2,000 against the paycheck or something like that. And so we have our software capabilities allow us to monitor when that happens. And again, that's not something that's going to show up on a credit report, because most of those payday loan places don't do a credit check. So those monitoring elements you can see a reflection of on this slide here. Now these are the things that you are in control of asking your program to monitor. So with what we refer to as our cyber watch, these are things that are non-credit monitoring services. These are things that you can see like Social Security numbers. We have the ability to monitor telephone numbers for you, medical ID numbers, different bank account numbers. Those of us that have PayPal or eBay accounts, Sue, I know you and I talked about that you utilize those. You can actually put in your number there, and we'll always be out on that monitoring for you, watching that account number to see if it's being breached in any way. Non-monitored identity data, that might be something like, I'll give you a good example. I have 2 children, and your product doesn't monitor the credit history of your children. However, it could monitor, say, a Social Security number there of your child, or it could monitor maybe an email address or a Facebook account or a Twitter account of that child. So like I know my daughter, she has her social media. She's 15 years old and she's into the social media thing. So I have her social media accounts being monitored because I know that she's not always paying attention to the information that's out there. So those are the different monitoring elements that you have access to. And again, if you're, the conspiracy theorist that doesn't want to have all those monitored, you can pull out which ones you don't want to have, and you can include the core things that you would like to have. These are the different 6 places that we are actually monitoring. Some of these we're even monitoring more than this now. We are continually acquiring and getting into other databases that give us more and more access to these things. Right now we have over 10,000 forums and websites that we monitor. The search engine queries right now is actually over 40,000. I need to update that statistic. Web pages that we're going through every day, we're now at almost 1 million. Different IRC channels, Twitter feeds, all these things that are out there that we're looking for all the time. We have botnets all over the place, and it's kind of like, I always like to say, it's almost like we've hacked the hackers in a lot of cases, where we can actually watch some of these people in the back offices of their black market websites, if you will, and catch them before the information is compromised. So, As a Catapult employee, you're automatically opted into the service. How are you going to know this? Well, you're going to receive an email from us. So what happens is your employer, when they notify us of your employment there and they move your data over to us, we immediately send an authentication email to you, which would look like what you see here on the screen. You click on the authentication link. It's going to ask you for some personal information for you to put into your site. You will be asked to create a username and a password. This is a private interface between you and your product. Your employer does not have access to see any of your personal information. Your username is your email address, and it is the email address that Catapult Systems gives us when we begin your product. And your password is the last 6 digits of your Social Security number. You cannot change that password without calling into our customer care team and authenticating yourself. So you cannot change your password within your product. You actually have to manually call in and speak to somebody. Again, part of the authentication parts of our product that we have. And on that note, I'd like to touch this for a lot of you that are already inside the product and you've started utilizing the product. We have a lot of safeguards and extra precautionary measures within this product to make sure that we are interfacing with our client, meaning you. And so there's a lot of extra safeguards which sometimes are a little bit of a pain when you are authenticating yourself. So when you originally set this product up, we make absolutely certain that we are getting your identifiable characteristics inputted correctly. And if the system senses in any way, even just slightly, that this may possibly not be you, it will lock you out of your program, and the only way to get yourself back in is to call our 800 number, which I'll be giving you in just a minute, or you can see it right here on this slide, this 866-530-9925, and you'll have to manually authenticate yourself with one of our restoration specialists. And we do that by design. We do that to protect you. We don't want to just have an automated system that a hacker can figure out how to manually get in and create programs to get into our clients' history. So that's how and why we do that. So if you have not received this email and you are a current employee, please notify Melody or Sue, and they'll let us know and we can have that email resent out to you. For those of you that have forgotten your usernames or password, it should just be your email address as username and the last 6 digits of your social as your password. Now, when you click on your authentication email and you fill out those questions and create that username, here's what your interface is actually going to look like. And you'll notice that score tracker right first thing in that top left-hand corner. This will be ever-changing. We'll track it for you. You can watch your scores fluctuate up and down. The middle section that you see right here, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but the middle section is sort of just a quick snapshot of any alerts that you might have received, any notification emails that might have come to you. And you can just quickly click on one of these view details as they come in, and it will get you the information on whatever that specific alert was. The boxes that you see down here on the product, this is kind of individual, more comprehensive explanations of what each one of the products do. And instead of you having to click on a certain alert in the middle of your product, you can go down, as an example, say, I'm about to go to Arkansas with my family on vacation. So I'd like to click into just the sex offender portion of my product, and I'd like to type in the address I'm going so I can see what that looks like. Or maybe I'd like to get into the lost wallet portion and just see what parts of the wallet, or maybe the cyber watch so I can get in and put my unique monitoring elements in there. So that's where you'll click in and learn more about each one of the areas. Each box that you see is a different element of your product. So they're all wrapped into one interface, but they're individual monitoring elements of your product. So you can click and learn more about each one of those. So that is your virtual identity protector. Again, that is provided for you at no cost as being an employee of Catapult Systems for you and your spouse. And then we have an additional part of our product, which I'm very passionate about. For that upgrade option, we've called that a platinum upgrade option for you. The only time you would see a deduction in your paycheck is if you chose to upgrade into the second portion of your product, which is the Legal Shield services, which I'll outline for you. I've owned this product since 1997, actually long before we integrated it into our core offering. And I got passionate about it really quickly. I actually first purchased the Legal Shield protection to get my will and testament prepared when my daughter was born in 1997. And I wanted to be a responsible father, and so I wanted to get my will done. And so what legal is, in essence, is it gives everyday, middle-class people like you and I access to top-quality law firms without having to worry about the high hourly price normally associated with them. So in essence, whenever you need legal assistance, you can pick up the phone and speak with an attorney, not a customer care rep in some foreign country somewhere. You will speak with an attorney in your respective state and get any questions answered that you have. So it's unlimited legal advice with a law firm, not a paralegal. You can get your will and testaments drafted like I did back in '97. They have a detailed will and testaments, powers of attorney, living wills, directed to physicians. All of that is included within the Legal Shield portion of your employee benefit. There are no hidden fees or costs associated with it. This is not a do-it-yourself kit on the internet. This is not a forms website you're going to be directed to. This is actually, you fill out the questionnaire, you send it to your law firm, and your lawyers will draft for you your will and testaments, powers of attorney, medical directives, and living wills. For those of you that are located in other states, you will have a law firm within that respective state that understands the state laws, and they'll do a state-specific will and testament for you. You can get those updated once a year and no cost to you. So, Sue, I know that this is something that you were really passionate about when we first spoke to you about the program, because I think you paid quite a bit to go get your will done. But right now, statistically, almost 90% of Americans don't have a will and testament. So,
I believe that of our employee base, about 90% don't have it either. And when I see everyday forms coming in for 401k and life insurance beneficiaries naming small children that can't collect the money if something happened to you, these wills are so important to have, especially in Texas. But I spent about $1,200 on all three parts of my will last year. And for the same service that this company is providing, I overpaid.
Wow. Well, hey, the good part is whenever you need to get it updated next time, you've got a resource that won't cost you anything to do that with.
I'm covered, yes.
So, guys, I can't say this enough. I don't want to overdo it here, but for those of you that have children, at least, please make sure that you have a will and testament, because I can tell you from a lot of experience for many years of doing this, bad things happen to good people, and if you pass without a will and testament, don't just assume that your children, as an example, go exactly where you want them to go. Don't just assume that any assets that you have automatically go to where you want, because I promise you, family will fight over things that you never thought they would, and the state governments will get involved with custody of children where you never thought that they would. And the only thing that negates the jurisdiction that the state has over any of your assets, including your kids, is having a will and testament. So that's one of the most powerful parts of this product, because there's no cost for you to get it done. So I'll jump off that soapbox and get into the rest of what this does. In addition to having legal advice, you can have letters written on your behalf. So anytime somebody's taking advantage of you and you'd like your law firm to draft a letter on your behalf, just showing that you have legal counsel. I always affectionately call these motivational letters, because a letter from a lawyer tends to motivate people to do the right thing. And I've had to use that over the years that I've had this program. I had a cell phone carrier for many years, never had a problem with them until all of a sudden my normal $100 and something cell phone bill became a $700 cell phone bill. And I tried to call the carrier and handle it myself, and they just basically were bullying me. And over the course of 3 months, my cell phone bill accumulated to over $2,000. And it was the principle of it for me, because I knew that these weren't my charges and I wasn't going to pay for it, but they were telling me that if I didn't, it was going to be put on my credit bureau. And so I picked up the phone. I called my Legal Shield attorney here in the state of Texas. I walked them through what happened to me. I gave them the documentation, and they drafted on their letterhead a great 1.5-page letter citing all the laws that protected me, and et cetera, et cetera. And a week after this big cell phone carrier got my letter from my attorney, they sent the attorney a letter back saying that they apologized for the inconvenience, what a great customer I had been all these years. And so that's just one example of how, you can utilize something like this. If you've got somebody harassing you, let them know that, hey, you're not playing around, you actually have access to an attorney, and you're not afraid to use it. Review of contracts. I've not signed a legal document since 1997 when I got this service without first sending it over to my law firm and having them review. I understood from Sue at the last session we did that there's been several employees that have used this for like lease agreements and other things. Is that right, Sue?
Yes, that's correct. So before they sign a rent contract of any kind, the legal people are reviewing it. And for those of our employees that are also landlords, before they have their tenants sign, they're having this reviewed as well.
Yeah, that's great. I know my commercial lease, I used it for just, recently a few months ago, and they caught a little glitch in the contract that I hadn't caught when I reviewed it. So having an attorney do these things for you is just so much better than doing them by yourself. If you ever receive moving traffic violations like speeding tickets, your law firm will actually go to bat and defend you with those situations. So it's not necessarily I'm getting out of my ticket part of your benefit, but it is representation for those tickets. So I've used it many times over the years, and I still have a clean driving record, even in instances when I completely deserved the ticket, and I've gotten to pay like a reduced fine and gotten something like deferred adjudication, or maybe the attorney's gotten defensive driving set up for me. Something that maybe I could have done on my own, yes, but I didn't have to do it on my own because the attorneys did it all for me, and the problem went away. So it's a great part. In addition, I've had a lot of things dropped as well that I don't know how they got dropped, but the attorneys knew how to get it done. If you ever sued on or off the job, audited by the IRS, all that's covered within the scope of your benefit. And then that last bullet that you see here, 25% member discount. This is in the event you have something that's more offensive related in nature. So, in the event that you might need to sue someone, so you're actually filing the suit or it's more offensive in nature, that's where the discounted portion of your benefit would kick in. For those of you guys that are skeptics that look at that and you immediately go, oh, well, they're just going to try to get people into the discounted portion, let me just give you a quick statistic here. 90% of all of our employees across the country, and we have over 40,000 businesses that offer this as an employee benefit in the United States and Canada, 90% of those concerns that come in through the product are handled at no cost within the scope of their membership. Less than 10% of the time are our members ask for any out-of-pocket expense, and that 10% of the time is when they're filing things more offensive in nature. So that's what Legal Shield does for that one flat monthly fee, giving you guys access to those services and where you can sleep at night and not have to worry about anybody taking advantage of you. It's $10.86 per month. A payroll deduction comes straight out of your check, so there's no need for you to do credit cards or bank accounts, giving you access to all those things that we just talked about. $10.86 per month is what you'll see come out of that paycheck. Your enrollment form, if you choose to upgrade, because as I mentioned earlier, you guys are automatically in the VIP identity theft product, but if you'd like to upgrade to the Platinum product for that $10.86 a month, I think it's $5 basically per pay period. This is the form that you all have access to that Melody and Sue have sent out, and I think we'll be sending out again for you guys, and it's pretty simple. You fill out the information that we need provided at the very bottom, which is you and your spouse information, and then you just check that option that you'd like to have and sign the deduction authorization, and you're done. So there's no need to put your social and your date of birth and all those things on it. We already have that through secured portal with your employer. So you'll hand that in to your HR department, and we should be all set from there. You'll get notification with email on your product, and you'll get notification on the Legal Shield portion that will come through the mail for you on the Legal Shield. You get your member cards and things to carry with you in your wallets or purses. So, Melody, I know we had some questions that we want to answer that some of the staff had.
Sure, we have just a handful of common questions. The first is, if ID Theft Solutions finds that someone has accessed an employee's private data or stolen their identity, how are employees notified?
Email. Your notifications will always come via email, so you can click on your product and get inside and look to see if it is you. If it is you, then there's no need to do anything at all. Just ignore the notification, and then if it's not you, you'll call that 800 number that you see on the email, which is 866-530-9925.
Okay, great. And how do you define spouse for the purpose of this coverage?
That's a good question. So we do not discriminate about definition of spouse. If you have anyone that you consider a spouse or significant other, as long as you live with them, they are automatically covered within the scope of your benefit, if you want them to be. So spouses are not automatically covered like you as an employee are, where we don't have the spouse information. You'll have to provide your HR department with your spouse's name and email address, and we will manually send them a promotional code where they can get into the product themselves and sign up as part of it. So if you consider anybody a significant other or a spouse, they can be covered with your benefit.
And if an employee enrolls a spouse, do they share the same account?
They do not share the same account. So again, all those things that I talked about earlier about being sensitive and authentication and stuff, they will have the exact same look and feel to their product as you have as an employee, but it will be a completely separate account because not all spouses want to know about one another's credentialing. And so it'll be a completely separate platform that they'll be logged into, but the product protection will still be the same.
Okay. And let's see, regarding portability, is the coverage portable for employees and their spouses, and do the rates change at all?
Yes, so the product is portable. If you ever leave, you can take it with you. However, as you guys know, your employer is paying for it for you. So if you do leave, you will need to notify us, and we can move you over at the normal rate whenever you leave there. You can move it to a self-pay option and continue with the product.
Okay. And then employees, once they opt in, can they opt out at any time? Or how does that work?
So with Catapult, we've set up for you where you can opt in the product at any time, but you can only opt out during open enrollment period, so we don't have a lot of paperwork coming back and forth within HR. So yes, you can opt in at any time, but you'll be able to opt out once a year. I believe, Sue, was that in September?
At the end of the year, in December.
Okay, in December, at the end of the year. So once a year, you'll be able to opt out.
All right. Well, I think those are all the questions that I have. Sue, did you have any others?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. And if you have any questions at all, you see our contact information is on this slide here, and feel free to call us directly. We are located in Austin, Texas, and have a support team on standby to be able to assist with any of your needs.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.